Hey Jenna, it's Cindy here. I wanted to just show you how to do that composite for the quilt. There's a couple of different ways to get the file into Photoshop. You can just open it directly in Photoshop. And if you do that, sorry, I have to make sure I grab the right file here, this one. So there's the file with your edit. And so that gives us to, this is Camera Raw. Camera Raw basically is the same thing as Lightroom. It's the same, Lightroom is just a fancy skin on top of Camera Raw. Camera Raw is actually what powers Lightroom. It also powers part of Photoshop as well. And so this is sort of the, the bare bones version. And what we want to do before we do anything with the file is we're going to save your preset. We're going to save your edits as a preset. So we're going to go here to presets and go down here to this little new symbol. And that will give you a new preset. And so we're going to call it whatever, Jenna 6, because I've recorded this a couple of times tonight. And I'm going to hit into where I want it to go. And then just say OK, and I'm just going to replace that. And so you'll see that here I have my preset saved in the file. Now that I have that saved, the next step is to open this as a smart object in Photoshop. So you can do that by holding the Shift key and hitting Open Object. Now, if you don't want to start from the file directly, you want to start from Photoshop. This is the faces that I get when I take my kids' photos. You can do the same thing from Lightroom and go open as a smart object in Photoshop. You could save your preset here first, or you can save it the same way I just showed you. Either way works. If you go here, edit, open as a smart object in Photoshop, what will end up happening is you will end up with the file opening into Photoshop, and you'll notice you'll have the little symbol in the corner that indicates it's a smart object. If you click on that, what happens is you get that same Camera Raw format, and you can go in and do the exact same thing we just did, which is go to the presets, save your preset, and then continue on. Either way will get you to the exact same spot. So that's where we are. So we have it open as a smart object in Photoshop. And so the next step, what we want to do is we're going to go into that smart object for a second, and we're going to go to the little hamburger 3 lines, and we're going to set it to Camera Raw defaults. And that will give us the original SOC out of your file. And we're going to hit OK. And what happens is we now have the SOC showing up in our file. And then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that. But we don't want it to be a smart object when we duplicate it. We want it to just be a regular layer. And so in order to do that, it's Command Option. My fingers know it, but my brain doesn't. Command Option Shift E to make a duplicate layer of the not edited version. And we're just going to turn that visibility off for a second. We're going to click back on that smart object. And this is why we saved the preset. And we're going to go back in here and reapply your preset and then say OK. And so then you can see your preset is back exactly how it was, but now we have a version of your edit without the color. And now it just becomes a matter of masking it into where you want it to be. So there's a couple of different ways you could do this. You could just click on your layer mask. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Click on your layer mask, invert it, Command I to invert it, and then just use a brush painting white, and you can just paint away the color effect. If you want to be a little bit more specific about where you are having that come back, you could go up here to select color range and then grab the eyedropper tool and click it on the color of the quilt, like the yellow color here, and grab the plus sign and just click a couple of different areas where the color changes a little bit, sort of like that. You can see that I've selected, it's selecting the color of the quilt mostly and not selecting the white part of the quilt. I actually like the color of the white in your edit as opposed to this. It's a little bit brighter, but you know, totally up to you. Anyway, if you hit OK, that will make a selection, and then you can convert that selection to a layer mask by hitting the layer mask button. And what that did is the only parts that have changed color now is the parts that we selected. If you hit Option and click on your layer mask, you can see what it's done. And you can clean it up a little bit by just using your paintbrush and, you know, paint over with a really big brush this stuff back here that we don't need. We don't want your grass changing color. And that's kind of it. So that's how I would do it. And this little trick can be done with any edit. I will tell you the reason that we're using Smart Objects for this is, and not just opening it as a regular object. Let me show you what happens. If we take your regular layer, I'm just going to delete the layer mask. So this is your document. If we just saved it as a preset and then tried to reapply it to this document, if we go to Filter, Camera Raw, there's something in your preset that's working differently on raw file as it does on a not so raw file. And when I reapply your preset, this is what happens, which is a little overblown. And so it, I'll just show you. So that's applying the preset to the TIFF part, and this is applying the preset to the raw file. So you can really see that there's something going on with that. So that's why the steps are to keep it as a smart object and to keep it in that workflow. And it works a lot better. So that is how I would do it. Okay, I hope this helps.